Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just hit the link in the show description to support now.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Cognitive Recalibration podcast. As always, I'm your host Shravan. We've got Taran here with us. We're returning after a little bit of a break, and we're actually trialing a bit of a remote recording system here in preparation for Doctor Strange, not Doctor Strange 2, because I'll not be in Melbourne when that movie comes out. So this is almost a bit of a test run. So if this doesn't work, well, I guess you're not getting this episode.
This episode's not coming out, and Doctor Strange is also not coming out.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about a couple of movies that we watched on the weekend. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. We watched it over Easter weekend, and Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Correct.
Yes, I almost forgot the title, because there's a lot happening in the movie and the title. So which one do you want to talk about first? I guess we...
Sonic's
just
pretty
to preface,
simple, so maybe we go for that first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going to say, to preface, one movie is not simple. It's quite complicated and pretty hard to explain. Doesn't mean it's bad. We'll get into that. And one movie is simple, but that also doesn't mean it's bad. So yeah, we can do Sonic first because that's the first movie that we watched. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So a little bit about the movie. It's directed by Jeff Fowler. So he's the same director as the first movie. Remember with the first movie how they had that issue where they released the trailer and Sonic looked weird? Like he had smaller eyes or something. And then there was a big fan backlash, and then the director came out on Twitter and he's like, yeah, we'll change it. And then they changed it for the movie. And then the movie actually ended up being all right because Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was one of the first movies that we recorded an episode for before COVID. I think it was like the last episode that we did before COVID, because it was probably like the last movie we watched before COVID. And here we are 2 years later, and COVID's still here, but you know, it's not as bad as it was a couple of years ago. And we're here with the sequel, so we could get into our thoughts in it shortly. But in terms of the cast, so James Marsden, who was in the first one, he's back. Ben Schwartz is again reprising the role of Sonic in terms of the voice. And Tika Sumpter, who played the wife. Is it wife or girlfriend?
Girlfriend in the first one and then wife in this one.
And then we also have Jim Carrey, who was in the first one. But in terms of new cast, we've got Idris Elba as Knuckles. And we have someone as Tails. Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails.
That's a person that does it in the games, I think.
Yeah, it could be. Because let me double check actually. Is an American voice actress. Yeah, she does do it I think she does it in the show.
Oh, okay.
You know how there's a Sonic show? Yeah.
Yeah.
More Sonic adventures. So, like I said, we did like the first Sonic. I thought it was pretty good. And it's probably one of the best video game movies, if not the best. I actually liked it better than Detective Pikachu, which is, yeah, I think most people consider that to be the best one, but I thought it was probably a bit more entertaining than that one. What did you think?
This movie or the first movie?
You can talk about both. The first one and then talk about this. Talk about this one. Yeah.
I think the first movie was pretty good. I think this one's pretty good as well, but probably not as good as the first one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was about the same level as the first one. I think the first one had a bit more emotion. Like, I think you get on board with the characters a bit more. This one's a bit more of an action-heavy movie. The first one was a bit more of like a road trip type thing happening in that movie with like James Marsden and Sonic, and they like go on the road trip, even though Sonic can run anywhere in the world. He doesn't need to go in a car. Yeah, it had a bit more heart, but yeah, this one was also still pretty good. It still had some comedy, especially from Sonic. It's got some like pop culture references, which were pretty funny.
Yep. I think there was some stuff that went over the kids' heads, but we kind of got.
Kids will really like this one because I think the first, obviously these are kids' movies, so and there's a reason it's coming out now during the holidays as well. So I think kids will enjoy it, but there's stuff there for adults to enjoy as well. So similar to the first one. Jim Carrey was good. Again, he does his thing. I
thought it was pretty decent. Yeah. He does his thing. Yeah, once again, I don't think he's as good as the first one. I liked his play with the guy that gives him the coffee in the first one, but he doesn't have that much interaction with that guy in this one, so that's okay. But he was okay. He did the same thing as he did the first one. Pretty much.
Yeah, I thought in the first one, yeah, maybe it was slightly better because it was. I mean, it's what Jim Carrey does in all movies, really, but it kind of suits this character, so it made sense. Like if you go back and watch Batman Forever and the way he acts in that, it's maybe a bit more exaggerated than that, and that's pretty exaggerated, but it actually suits this character. Knuckles was okay. He was good. I thought he was pretty good as well. I think Tails was a bit, and maybe that's just the character of Tails, but I thought Tails was okay. Like nothing, not a standout as such. Like is Tails a boy or a girl?
I think he's a boy.
Obviously it's voiced by a female, but
I think he's a boy.
I think it's meant to be a boy, right? We can get into the story, spoilers-wise story in the spoiler section, but what was the story of this one?
It's basically revolves around this gem that they're trying to find, and Jim Carrey's trying to find it, and yeah, he gets Knuckles to help him, and then Sonic's trying to find him, and he gets Tails to help him. Then it's kind of about them trying to find it.
We talked about this in our Sonic the Hedgehog episode. So obviously Sonic is a hedgehog, but Knuckles is an echidna, and there's a difference between them. So that they're obviously related in some way, but they're actually different. So we got echidnas here in Australia, but we don't have hedgehogs. Obviously there's some difference between them. What like Knuckles, I don't know,
Knuckles is more like strong and like he punches stuff. And then Sonic's like quick.
He's quick and agile. And then Tails is a fox with two tails.
Tails can fly, yeah.
Yeah.
So they all got their different video game skills, I guess. Because I think in the games you use them for like different parts of the level. So you use Sonic for like the speed stuff, Tails to fly, and then Knuckles to punch stuff.
In terms of box office, budget was between 90 and 110 million, which I'm pretty sure it's a bump up from the previous movie. I don't think the previous movie had as high a budget as this one. And the box office, so far it's made 241 million worldwide, which makes it so far the fifth highest grossing movie of 2022. Still early days in 2022, like there hasn't been a whole lot of big releases yet, but it's doing reasonably well. So we may get another one of these because they seem to be doing all right. Any negatives on this?
Nothing like glaringly negative. It's a good kids movie, but yeah, I think that's probably its downfall as well. It's like it's a kids movie in essence. So it's focused on kids, so it's probably not for everyone. And it's probably not even for us. Like there were parts of it where I was like, it's a joke, but it's not really a I think joke it's for more. Us. It's more made for kids, and then it won't completely bore the parents when they go watch it with them. So, it's a good kids movie. It's a okay adult movie. It's not amazing.
One negative I had, and it does have a good payoff, but so James Marsden and his wife, they're kind of like got a subplot in this. So they're doing their own thing in this movie for most of it. So they're going to a wedding for, pretty sure his partner's sister, right? Who was in the first one, actually. She was the one they tie up in the house, right?
Yeah.
In the first one. And that's why she doesn't get along with James Marsden as well. That subplot was a bit, whenever they switch back to that subplot, it was kind of like, it's not really that interesting.
What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah. But it did have a good payoff at the end. There's like a bit of a a joke that they lead up to, and I thought that was pretty funny when it does happen. And then there's some jokes after that as well involving the characters in their wedding, which was okay. Yeah, added a bit of comic relief. And apart from that, yeah, not much. Like I don't think we can look too much into this movie because it's not really made for us, and we're also not like Sonic video game fans. Like I played Sonic a bit when I was a kid, but we were always Nintendo owners, so we played more of Mario than Sonic. And there is a Mario movie coming out, so we'll have to see how that one goes. Is that Mario movie going to be like this, like live action /
No, I
animated,
think it's just
or is
animated.
it going to be?
I think it's just
full animated.
Yeah.
When the movie starts, like they've got similar to like the Marvel logo, they've got a Sega logo. And they've got like, obviously Sonic is a central Sega character, but they've got, I think it's like Street Fighter and like their other games. So potentially they might have it might not be a shared universe, but they might have other movies from Sega. There is a Street Fighter movie actually.
There is, with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. It's like all video game movies of that era, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything else? Like it's not really that much to talk about in this one because it's a decent movie, worth a watch if you got kids. I think they'll enjoy it. You'll have a bit of a chuckle every now and then, and it's a good time. Apparently, Jason Momoa was in talks to play Knuckles, but eventually it went to Idris Elba, who was good. He does his own voice, like he doesn't put on an accent or anything. So I guess echidnas are British.
In this movie, yes. Yeah.
Yes. And in the games, or like the show or whatever, is Knuckles a bad guy or is he just like an anti-hero?
No, I think he's a good guy.
Yeah, well, obviously in this one, if you like seen the trailers and stuff, plays a slightly negative role initially. And obviously in the last movie, they didn't hint at Knuckles, right? But they did hint at Tails at the end of the last one.
Yes, I think so. Yep. You see, I think you see him. Yeah.
Yeah, in the post-credits, yeah. I guess we can get into spoilers. There's a couple of things I wanted to discuss. So if you haven't seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and you care about spoilers, go watch it. We do recommend it. It's probably a cognitive recalibration from us. And come back to this point and listen to our spoilers. So first question, Tails, how does he know about Sonic? And he's obviously like a fan of Sonic, so has he been spying on him for like years? Because he comes from space,
it sounds like
right?
it. Yeah, he comes from some other dimension, I think. So, yeah, it sounds like he was.
Yeah, and obviously he sounds like he's a lot younger than Sonic as well. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, obviously he's a big fan, and then he turns up and he saves Sonic from Knuckles. And then they go on a bit of a road trip together. And they go to this, I don't know where it is. It's in like Siberia or something, like somewhere that's really cold. And I'm not sure what language they were speaking, but yeah, they go there and they do a dance-off thing. It was okay, but I think it was definitely more for kids, that part, than for adults.
The song was a bit dated as well. It's like a pretty old song.
Yeah, how old is that song? Like,
it's like 5 years old or something. Yeah. It
more
was
than
Uptown
that,
Funk, wasn't it? Yeah.
Uptown Funk, yeah. I think it's like 2014 or like 2013. Yeah. So it's almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
It worked for what it is. Like, you can't take this movie too seriously, so stuff like that. Remember when you got really offended with that dance-off in Space Jam?
Yeah, that's because it's just that was different because it was its own song that they made, and they made LeBron James dance in the background. It was so much worse than this. So much worse. This one, at least, it's played for, like, that one's played for laughs as well, but that was genuinely bad. They made their own song for it. It was like a rap. This one, at least they use a song that is a legitimate song.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that wasn't a dance battle. It was a rap battle. I'm pretty sure it was a rap battle.
That's right. It was a rap battle because they got Porky Pig to rap, and you know, it's funny because he's Porky Pig, and
no good. Yeah. I'm still offended by that. This was not offensive.
And obviously, what's Jim Carrey's is Dr. Egghead? Is that his name? The Jim Carrey's character?
Eggman. Egghead? Something like that, yeah.
Dr. Eggman, Dr. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik as well. Obviously, he's always bad, and he actually comes back from the Mushroom. Is it Mushroom Kingdom?
Yeah,
that's from Mario, but the Mushroom Planet or whatever. He finds his way back, and he kind of teams up with Knuckles for a bit, but then Knuckles' character, it reminded me of like Drax in Guardians 1.
Kind of is like that, yeah.
Yeah. Like, he takes everything literally and, like, metaphors and stuff he doesn't understand. And then he's also, like, he values honor. So, that was interesting. I thought that was an interesting dynamic. And it plays well with Sonic especially, but also, at one point Tails as well. So they're all kind of very different characters. And obviously at the end they all come together and team up. I thought that end fight was...
okay.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's classic. They punch for a bit and then they're mates, with Sonic and Knuckles. So they punch for a bit and then they're mates. And then at the end, Sonic gets the Smash Brawl and he gets his superpower.
Oh yeah. I forgot that completely actually.
That's a Super Smash Brothers reference. Yeah.
In Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, that's right. That's his, what do you call it? The Smash Ball
special
move.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his special. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, is this a reference to the games or something? It probably is. Like, he probably does that in the games as well.
It's called Super Sonic.
Yes. Yeah. Which makes sense as well. But he doesn't keep it, so he gets rid of the gem or whatever. And then the gem gets put back together by Knuckles.
By Knuckles. Yeah. Yep.
And obviously Knuckles and Sonic are like... They never actually establish why they were fighting, do they? Like, why the echidnas and hedgehogs were fighting?
Oh, because Sonic's trained by the owls, and the owls were fighting the echidnas.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, so Sonic he doesn't live around other hedgehogs. He lives with that owl.
With the owl dude, yeah. But he's dead because the echidnas killed him.
I thought it was a she. I could be wrong.
Oh, shit, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a she. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, Smash Brawl. I thought when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, this looks familiar. And I'm like, why does it look familiar? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for Super Smash Bros. Sonic was never a character that I played with though, because I sucked with him.
I played with him a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought he wasn't powerful enough. Like, he's fast.
He's very fast.
But his moves aren't like that. They don't do a lot of damage. But I guess he's kind of similar to like Mario, and I'm also not that good with Mario. So, yeah. I go with more of the powerful, like, in the new Smash Bros, my best character is King Dedede.
King Dedede.
Even though he's super slow, but his damage is, like, pretty high. And in Super Smash Brothers Brawl, right? Which is the one on Wii. My best character was Kirby. Who was your best character? Lucas, right?
Yeah, I did use Lucas a lot in Brawl. I haven't played much of the new one. I should play a bit more. I do have a Switch. Just don't play it that much.
Yeah, well, one of our friends borrowed it for a year.
For over a year, yeah.
Yeah, so if he's listening to this, you know who you are. Yeah. He even, didn't he buy a game for it?
Yeah, he bought a game for it. It was basically his Switch for a while.
Yeah. Okay. We can get into the post-credit scene. So there is a post-credit scene. They hint at another Sonic character. So apparently the government has been hiding another hedgehog-type character, and it's Shadow.
So I know nothing about Sonic, but I'm pretty sure he's a clone of Sonic.
Okay. So how did they get a clone of him when Sonic was never actually cloned? Well, in this universe anyway. I don't think he was.
They could have got one of his strands or whatever and then cloned him.
Oh, yeah. That's possible.
Yeah. But I don't know anything about Sonic, so that could be wrong.
I only know the Sonic characters from the...
Olympic Games.
Olympic Games, yeah. Not even the Sonic Games, the Olympic Games. Because there's Shadow, there's Silver.
Silver, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the pink one, that's the girl.
There's a pink one, yeah. Then there's Tails and and Knuckles. Is that it?
Yep.
Is there someone else?
There's that crocodile guy.
Is he a Sonic character?
For sure he's a Sonic character, yeah.
He's also in Smash Bros, isn't he? Or is that another crocodile?
I think he is.
No, I think that's another crocodile.
Maybe it's another character, yeah.
I think that's a DK character, that crocodile.
Yeah. But there's a crocodile guy in Sonic in the Winter Olympic game, yeah.
So they might bring in all these characters. But Shadow, again, I don't know anything about him. For us, Shadow, anytime we hear the name Shadow, it means something else for us because we won't get into it, but there's this movie that we watched in the Telugu language called Shadow, and it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. In fact, I haven't even finished it. To this day, I haven't finished it, but it's even the first half of that movie is the worst thing I've ever seen. And so, like, Shadow, son of Raghuram is all I remember. But it's a reference for those who, the two people that might actually understand that. One day we'll review that movie. We'll actually have to watch that whole movie.
That might be hard. That might be very difficult.
Cool. So there will be another movie, obviously, because they've hinted at it. Apparently there's also going to be a Knuckles spin-off in development, which is in development at the moment. And Idris Elba said he's going to be coming back for that. And the Knuckles spin-off series will be on Paramount Plus, coming out in 2023. Another thing we didn't talk about was Jim Carrey said he was retiring from acting, and this will be his last performance. But I'm not 100% sure that his character actually died.
Yeah, I think they left it open for him to make a comeback at some point, but I think I don't know, unless he gets really bored, he probably won't come back.
Yeah. And they introduced and I'm guessing Shadow's a villainous character.
I'm pretty sure he's a villain, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe they'll go with the Shadow character in the next one. Okay, so we'll jump on to the next movie, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. We watched this pretty recently, but it released on the 25th of March, actually, in the United States. I think we got it a bit later than that. We got it more recently in April. It stars Michelle Yeoh and other people. So Stephanie Su is how you pronounce her name. HSU. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Apologies if it's wrong. And Ki Hui Kwan, who was in the Indiana Jones movies, I'm pretty sure. The little kid. He was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Before getting to the story, it is directed by Dan Kwan and Daniel Schneert. And I looked up what they've done in the past. So they did a movie called Swiss Army Man, starring Daniel Radcliffe. So that was their last movie. This is their second movie. It is an A24 production. A24 is sort of like a niche production house. They do kind of very targeted movies. And we haven't reviewed a lot of them, but one of our friends is a big fan of A24. So he was really insisting that we go watch this, and we also wanted to watch it. So we ended up watching it, and it's a very unique movie. So, what's the story of this one?
I think this story is, it's very mind-bending, and you probably should go in not knowing anything about it. I went in probably not knowing much about it when I went and saw it, and I think the experience is better for it, but essentially it's a multiverse story about this lady that owns a laundry shop. Yeah,
absolutely. That's exactly what it is. That's the simplest way you can describe it. This is like a year for multiverse movies because there's a whole bunch of other ones coming out as well, but they keep the multiverse concept reasonably, like the concept of how the multiverse works, I thought was easy to understand. Like, not easy, but understandable. Like, you can get it. It's not too complex. They kind of take you on a ride in terms of how it works. And then you kind of, I think the more complex part of the story is just all the different things that are happening at once. There's a lot of...
Yeah, the different dimensions and stuff that they visit. There's a lot that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you... Like, I think this one... Like, if you haven't seen it and don't know anything about it, just go watch it. It's amazing. Just watch it and don't look at anything about it. Just go in blind, because I think it'll be a better experience.
Yeah, even I went in pretty blind. I watched a little bit of the trailer before going in, but I didn't really know anything about it. And even the trailer doesn't really tell you much about the movie anyway. Yeah, in terms of positives, I thought Michelle Yeoh was superb. It's a pretty complex role because she's playing herself in different versions of her character in multiple different dimensions. And she has to play each part slightly differently. So, yeah, that was really interesting, the way she played some of the other roles, and also her role, like her main character role in this movie. So she was definitely a standout. And her husband was also a standout too. He did really well, and her daughter as well. So it is a kind of a family story in the end. And I think there is a bit of a message at the end of the movie, despite all the, crazy multiverse type stuff happening. I think there is a emotionally driven undertone, like a family emotional driven undertone, which you kind of have to, might not be completely apparent, but I think it's there. And maybe that was the whole message in the movie as well.
Yeah, and I think that kind of the family story drives the movie, but the whole multiverse situation kind of makes it more exciting and interesting to watch.
Yes, yeah. Any negatives from this movie?
I think it's not for everyone, and definitely some people either find it confusing or it's just, there's some weird stuff in this movie, which I found hilarious, but I can see other people finding it, just not that funny or not that great. So definitely not for everyone, but I think if you're the kind of person that likes comic book movies and likes like mind-bending stories, then I think this is a movie that you would enjoy.
Yeah. I also think it's not really a negative, but it's definitely not for everyone. It is a chaotic movie. There is a lot happening. One of the people we went to the movie with, she was a bit tired and she fell asleep during the movie. Not because it was boring, but I think she was just tired. And this is not a movie where you can fall asleep in, because you really do have to pay attention to every single detail, or else you will get lost. Like, even paying attention to every detail, you do sometimes feel lost in some parts as well. But it's kind of in a good way, because I feel like there's a lot of depth in the movie, and watching this multiple times will actually, I think, we'll notice new things in each new viewing, which will be interesting. So I'm looking forward to watching it again, maybe at home, where you can pause and kind of digest what's happened and rewind and see what's going on. So I think, it's definitely not for everyone. I can see my wife watched like a minute. So I was like, oh, it's a movie with Michelle Yeoh, and she really likes Michelle Yeoh because, Crazy Rich Asians and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the other movies that she's been in, and she really likes her. So she's like, yeah, I'll definitely watch this. And then she watched about a minute of the trailer, and she's like, no, I don't want to watch this. So it definitely wasn't her cup of tea. So, yeah. So in compensation for not watching this with her, I'm watching Downton Abbey: A New Era. So, yeah.
Okay. Enjoy that one.
Yeah. Look forward to maybe we'll do a review of that instead of Doctor Strange, because, we need to talk about the big movies. We can't, yeah.
Yes. Well, some people love Downton Abbey, so I think it's one of the biggest shows in the world, so we can't talk too much shit about it.
Yeah. Anything else on this movie? We can talk a little bit of spoilers. Not that I don't really have that much to talk, actually, in spoilers. I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was good as well.
I didn't realize it was Jamie Lee Curtis until after the movie. So that was, it's not like Colin Farrell Batman level, but it's pretty well hidden in terms of who she is.
I saw it was her. Maybe some people just don't expect her to be in this movie, because she's not like a main character or anything. She's actually a pretty secondary character in the story.
I frankly really enjoyed it, and like I said, if you haven't seen it, which I don't think many people have, then you should go watch it without spoiling anything for yourself.
So based off this, should we review more A24 movies?
Only if Rev wants us to.
Yeah, I think the only other one we've reviewed is Minari. And that's because I wanted to watch that movie, and it was sort of, something I was interested in.
Do you know what? I think these two directors will end up directing an MCU movie at some point. Yeah, I'm just putting that out there as, they know how to do their action well, and they obviously know how to do some mind-bending stuff, so I think they know the Russo brothers, so...
Yes, what we didn't mention was the Russo brothers produced this movie. So they're producers on this, and you just brought it up there, but the action in this movie is pretty good. In fact, it reminded me of... It's almost like a...
I thought it was like an old Hong Kong action movie type.
Yeah, it is that, but I also thought it was kind of like Matrix for a new generation. Like, because Matrix, when it came out, it wasn't like a big blockbuster release type movie. It was kind of a little bit niche. Keanu Reeves was known, but like, the Wachowskis weren't like big directors. It was kind of a little bit niche, and it introduced... or like it influenced a whole generation of filmmakers with like the action in it and the way the story was told. It feels like that. So it feels like maybe for the TikTok generation, this is potentially their Matrix, and it might get a cult following like that.
Yeah, I agree. It could, yeah. I think if enough people see it though, I can see it going under the radar. But yeah, it's a very well-made movie, and I think... Yeah, I'll definitely watch whatever these two put up next, and I probably should watch Swiss Army Man as well.
I've heard that's a weird movie. I mean, it's about a...
This is weird as well.
Yeah, this is pretty weird as well. Like, it's probably a bit too weird for some people. But I can definitely see these directors making an MCU movie, especially because the MCU is kind of gearing towards, like, multiverse stuff anyway. And they've just demonstrated that they can do multiverse concepts pretty well. So if there is like another Avengers movie that is dealing with multiversal stuff, not a bad option. We can jump into some spoilers. I don't have too many because there's not too much we can, even watching the movie, there's just so much content and material in it that it's hard to even discuss without, sitting here for 3 hours. But we'll do some spoilers. So if you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, go watch it. Come back to this point in the episode and listen to our spoilers. Yeah, so the movie is split up into 3 parts. And I wasn't expecting this movie to be as long as it was. So it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And when the movie starts, it starts with part 1, Everything. And I was expecting part 2 to come up like, maybe half an hour later. But the story kept going. And I was like, oh, maybe that part 1 thing was just like a joke or something. Like they weren't actually going to do it. But part 2 does come up, but it comes up like an hour and a half into the movie, like more than an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wow, there's a lot happening in this movie because part 1 ends. And to be honest, when part 1 ends, I felt like, are they going to leave this movie like super open-ended? Because it ends like, wow, if they wanted to be super artistic,
it could have been the end.
It could have been the end, but obviously it wasn't. There was a lot of unresolved plot points by that time, and there was a whole part 2 left. Part 3, in comparison to part 1 and 2, was shorter because part 3 was essentially just the climax.
Part 3 is like 5 minutes, like an epilogue, basically. An epilogue. And part 2 is a little bit longer than that.
Yeah. Anything like spoilery that you want to talk?
I really enjoyed that fight scene that they do with the bum bag near the start. I thought that was well choreographed. That was probably one of the standout fight scenes.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's even much of a spoiler, but I thought that was one of the standouts for the whole movie.
Yeah. Especially all the sudden transformations that her husband has. So he goes from being like this timid husband to like being this martial arts expert in like a second. So I thought all of that stuff was really good. also he retired from movies, and he retired because he felt like there wasn't enough representation of Asian characters in Hollywood, and whenever they did cast Asian characters, it was like stereotypical Asian in a movie. But after Crazy Rich Asians came out, he's like, oh, look, there is a market for stories from, my background. So that's why he signed up for this movie. So apparently he came out of retirement for this.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully he does more stuff after this as well, because he's pretty good.
Yeah. And I thought her daughter was also pretty good. Do you remember her from a movie that we watched recently?
No.
I've seen this person before, but I just can't remember what she was in. And then I remembered. Remember in Shang-Chi, they've got this really annoying lawyer friend?
Oh, yeah, the friend. Yeah. She's the friend.
She's the lawyer friend that's like giving them... At the start of the movie, she's like, yeah, you got to, take responsibility and grow up and all of that stuff. Yeah.
And then she's at the end as well. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So that's where I saw her. But yeah, she's obviously...
Oh, that's funny, I think, because I think Awkwafina was meant to play that role initially.
Oh, like the role in this movie?
Yeah, the role in this movie.
That is interesting, yeah. Would I don't know. Like, I like Awkwafina, but can she... I feel like she's good at comedy. Like, she'd be good in comedic roles. But could she do this type of role? Maybe she could. I've never seen her in a really serious role. I remember we watched that movie about the grandma that's going to die or something. The Farewell, yeah.
Yeah, The Farewell, yeah.
That was like a semi-serious movie. We didn't particularly enjoy that one.
But saying that, this is quite a comedic movie, and I think that's one of its strengths. It's pretty funny, and yeah, I like all the one of the plot points that's a spoiler, I guess, is to access all these like skills you get in the other dimensions, you have to do a weird thing to kind of access it, and some of the weird things they have to do is quite funny. So
again, that stuff is funny, but for some people it's probably just a bit too weird to be funny.
Yeah,
just some of the stuff. So I can see some people getting turned off by that. But yeah,
the sausage hand dimension, like that's probably a bit too weird for some people, but I found it funny.
Yeah, for me it was funny. Like, it was funny the first time, but they do keep going back to it
I thought
a lot.
The funniest one was definitely the raccoon Tui dimension.
Yes. That was definitely the funniest one, because it was like I don't know how I guess they got away with it because it wasn't the same thing. Like, it wasn't a rat. So yeah, so I guess they got away with it. But yeah, that was definitely the funniest dimension.
That and the rock dimension.
Yes,
where they just rocks.
Where they just rocks, yeah. And I also, it's not a funny dimension, but I found it interesting that there is a dimension where she's an actress, and I'm pretty sure it's essentially Michelle Yeoh in real life. In that dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does this movie in that dimension, essentially.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Small thing, but they make her look like significantly different as well in each of the dimensions. Like, you can tell that it's another version of her. Like, obviously when she's an actress, she looks much more glamorous and different compared to the present day, like the main timeline or the main dimension. I'm pretty sure she wasn't like wearing makeup or anything, so she looked like probably how Michelle Yeoh looks in real life when she's not wearing makeup. So that was good. Like, they had a differentiation between all of the dimensions. And there was also one part where they kind of show her. There's a lot of like close-up shots in this movie, but they have a close-up shot of Michelle Yeoh's face, and they show all of her different characters, like all of her different versions of herself, or the variants, if we use like Loki terminology, all of the different variants of Michelle Yeoh's character, and it flashes on the screen, and it's like almost like. They probably should have had a warning for that particular shot, because there's a lot of flashing lights and stuff. Like, it's a lot to take in. But that was really interesting because there's like an anime version of her. There's like there's like so many different versions. There's like you said, there's a rock version. So that was really creative. there's a lot we can talk about for this movie. So
yeah, it's hard to unpack, but like really, I just think it's a good movie and people should go watch it. Really, even if you've listened up to this point, I don't think we've spoiled anything. Like we've spoiled some things, but you can. I think you can still go watch it.
Lastly, so this is a very complex movie, but we still enjoyed it. We were discussing after the movie how, another complex movie that we've seen in recent times, Tenet, was not as enjoyable as this one. Like us two didn't enjoy it that much. And we thought that this one, it is complex, but it's a complex story told still in an entertaining way. So even if you don't completely understand what's happening, you can still enjoy the movie. Whereas I think Tenet crosses that line where it's just too complex and it almost detracts from the experience of the movie. So yeah, I know people might disagree with this because there's still fans of Tenet, but that's our personal opinion. Yeah, we're also saying like if you go to sleep, if you fall asleep in this movie and wake up, you probably won't understand what's happening. In Tenet, you could watch the whole thing and you don't understand what's happening. Or you could maybe if you fall asleep, and we haven't tried this, maybe
more sense.
Maybe we should try this. We'll fall asleep in between, wake up, and maybe it will make more sense to us. Okay, so if people want to get in touch with us and tell us about how their experience with Everything Everywhere All at Once, or also Sonic the Hedgehog 2, how do they go about it?
So we're on all platforms at Cognitive Recalibration, or you can always email us at cognitiverecalibrationpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, and if you want to support the podcast, you can do so via giving us a review on iTunes or Spotify. That makes us more discoverable on search engines. So when you search for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review, one of our episode will be one of the first few that comes up in your search results. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you're all staying safe, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.